Hello. Hope you're well. This is Dan McDade doing his Dan McDraw thing. I remember this the other day. Dan McDraw. Sorry about the wobble. I'm thinking of calling this channel Sorry About the Wobble. Although I suppose actually it's a bit demeaning. I hope you're well. It's Thursday. It's either the 25th or the 26th. I'm not sure. It's definitely March. I can say that. I think it's March in this weird kind of ghost 2020 that we're in. It's funny, we're going to have to write off an entire year. Very strange. But I'm still working. A lot of people are still working. Debs is downstairs. She's working. We have had our... if you hear a creak from time to time, that's my chair. Now, I had to build this chair, not from scratch. It was a flat pack. I had to build it, and I don't think I ever got the chair exactly right because it has always been. It's comfortable, it's nice and everything, but it's always been on the verge of falling apart. So if you hear a crash and a cry of anguish, and the video just cuts out, it's because the chair has collapsed underneath me, and I'm lying on the ground and I can't get up. Anyway, you might remember the other day I did this list, Dan McDraw. My name's Dan McDade, but I thought it'd be funny to sort of change my surname to McDraw. So that's fun. And here's all these bozos. I have no idea who I'm going to draw today. I'm torn, I suppose, between Thunderstrike and Death's Head, or possibly, for added excitement, let's have brackets here, Death's Head 2. Because he was brought in, Death's Head 2 was brought in the 1990s. And the 1990s in comics was an era of extreme attitude, kind of steroidal looking characters with rippling muscles and tons of guns. And Death's Head was already a pretty kind of heavy metal character who had that in him anyway, but they amped him up even further, gave him more of a kind of a skull-like face, and because of Terminator 2, they gave him a kind of because the sort of morphing type stuff was very in. It was all the rage in the 90s. So they gave him a morphing arm that could turn into any weapon, and he's I got to be honest, I'm saying this with a slightly mocking tone of voice, but he is cool as hell. Like he really does look awesome. Yeah, so I might do him. I don't know. Yeah, I'll do Death's Head. I'll do Death's Head 1 today, and I'll see how that goes. And I'll have to do a bit of research on Death's Head 2, I think, because as with a lot of 90s designs, it's incredibly complicated. There's an awful lot going on with it. As I said the other day, I'm going to try and do this all on one sheet. But I suspect what's going to happen is I'm going to draw everybody too big, and I won't leave myself enough room. But let's give it a shot anyway. So I'm going to go for Death's Head 2, who I could basically draw in my sleep. I've basically been drawing this character on and off since I was a kid, and he does somewhat look like he was designed by a child, which I quite like. I think that is to some extent the key to his success. He's got a sort of the kind of design that kids could easily replicate in their own sort of jotters and exercise books and stuff. And I definitely did that. I can't count the number of times I drew, back in 1987, the number of times I drew Galactus and Rodimus Prime, or Hot Rod, and this guy. Got some sort of blasted thing there. It's a weird character. It's weird that this character caught on so much, and like he's a cult character. You know, he's not one of the kind of the big league, the big name characters. You know, but the people that know about him bloody love him, and I definitely fall into that category. I guess I'm drawing him hanging out with Jonah back in the Wild West. Crossover that you never thought you'd see happen. And it's happening right before your very eyes, your disbelieving eyes. So I went out for a walk today, which was horrible. I hate walking, hate exercise of any kind. If I could upload my entire body into some kind of, I don't know, some kind of machine that never needed to exercise, that would be pretty great, actually. How does this bit go? I can't remember. I think it's sort of like that. Yeah, this is his original kind of weird. And then is there a ring there? I kind of feel that there is, and there's some sort of weird design. Like I say, he's cool. He's a cool character, but he's kind of funny looking. You see these eyes and these kind of cartoony eyebrows. There's a touch of the MASH robot, the Smash robot about him, you know. And maybe that's the other key to his appeal. He's supposedly very, very tough, but he's also really kind of a comedy character. An extremely dangerous character who is nonetheless somewhat played for laughs. And then to emphasize the kind of childlike, the sort of childish design, he's got all these weapons that just kind of stick out of his back, and each of these can be kind of plugged into his in this very kind of toyetic way, can be plugged into his wrist to replace his hand, to make him all the deadlier. I think one of these is, I think let's just say a kind of a gun. Yeah, let's just say that. Yeah, so I went out for my walk, and it was all right. It was nice. I went out with Debs. It was quite pleasant. We saw loads of people all doing their government mandated walks, and it's quite funny. And you have to kind of. There is a part of me that, I mean, as long as I keep getting paid, and as long as this is very selfish, but as long as I keep getting paid, and as long as there's food in the cupboard, I do sort of like this in a way. I like there is something that has kind of brought us all together. And now I'm through the kind of original sort of rage and upset and depression. I don't know, do you know what helps is not looking at the news too much, because the news by its nature has, I mean, you really do need to stay on top of these things, but it does have, by its nature, it has a habit of catastrophizing everything. Everything is the worst. Because if it wasn't the worst, there'd be no need for news, would there? So, you know. So stay informed, I suppose, but don't, you know, it's possible to be, like, over-informed. I don't know. I shouldn't be handing out advice, and you should listen to me anyway. I'm an idiot. I'm good at this one thing. So that's that. Right. There you go. That's the pencils for that. Looks quite snazzy, quite cool. I'm going to do my usual thing. I'm using the Faber-Castell Pitt pen, superfine, so-called superfine, but it works for me. And I'm going to do my usual thing of picking out the kind of, what I think of as the, I don't really have a word for this, but like the thin bits, the bits that should be thin anyway. So this here, like what you're trying to do with your drawing all the time is convey a sense of the nature of the object. So these prongs here would be quite kind of thin, like knives, you know, like blades. So if I and later on I'm sure I'll break this rule, I'll completely walk it back, but if I kind of over render this and put too much shading on it, it'll work against what the nature of the object is. They're meant to be thin, they're meant to exude thinness and sharpness. And so if I kind of over render, I'll show you it in pencil form. And you can, like, really talented artists can make this work. It doesn't work for me. If I overdo this, see, suddenly now it has a kind of a curved quality. And that might work for underneath this chin area here, but not here, because it's meant to be thin and sharp. So you're trying to convey that with your line, with your inks. So, and again, that's not a rule. There are lots of artists who, you know, work it in their own way, and that's fine. But this works for me. So later when it comes to, I've given him a pensive look again. You've just heard that he's got the virus. I'm not going to keep making references to the virus. It'll date these videos too much. And in the future time, if there is a future time, people will go, what's he talking about? What's this virus nonsense? Anyway. So yeah, we went for a walk, and it's quite nice. Went down to the allotments. We have some allotments down the road, and I sort of stared enviously at people's selection of the selection of carrots and parsnips that I saw. Mainly it was weeds. There wasn't really that much kind of nice fresh food. It was actually quite post-apocalyptic. Oh dear. Never mind. Character designed by Jeff Senior, the great Jeff Senior. When I was a kid, that's who I wanted to be. I wanted to be Jeff Senior. Or Spider-Man. I wanted to be the Spider-Man or Jeff Senior. And even now, I think if you look back at his work, his Transformers work from that time, it's so good. It's so action-packed. It's so exciting. His action storytelling, I think, is second to none. Watch me mess up this circle. I think I'm getting his armor a bit wrong there. Most of this is being, I'm vamping quite a lot of this. A lot of it's coming out of just the top of my head, but I think it's working all right. Now, by contrast, if you contrast the, I was talking about this here and how it has to exude an aura of sharpness. It has to feel sharp just from looking at it. The horns are different. The horns are thick. They come to a point, but they are thick and kind of tubular, I suppose. So you do need